Hey, this is Mike Sparks here in my office. Just got through presenting my bill regarding reference-based pricing, House Bill 2456. Joey Hensley was my Senate sponsor. A little frustrated that the study didn't get implemented. I think they had 9 requests for the TASER study, which is Tennessee Advisory Council on Intergovernment Relations. But they only took up 2. Ours didn't make the cut. We'll try again next year. But what this bill has done, it's called reference-based pricing. We're just wanting to study our cost. Even in Luke chapter 14:28 says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first study and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? This is what frustrates me with government, folks, is that we don't study our cost. Our country has amassed $30 trillion worth of debt. I don't see no end in sight. I really don't see anybody trying to curb this path we're on as a nation. What has led to this bill, though, that I introduced 3 years ago, it led to an audit, and we wrote a letter to Herbert Slattery III requesting the findings of the audit. The audit cost us $400,000. If I'm not mistaken. They have not released the findings. I think the findings are going to be pretty alarming. What we're thinking is our healthcare plan. It's a good healthcare plan, but it's a very expensive healthcare plan of $1.6 billion. I want to take you to a video here. Watch this.
Would you bid out the procedure to doctors and hospitals and other places in the country, people you had never met, just to save money? It's happening more and more because even when they say it's not, it's always about money.
It's always about money.
Sure, we all love going online to find the best deal, but usually you're talking about a hotel room, a flight, a television. Would you feel comfortable accepting an online bid for a hip replacement from a doctor you have never met? It is the newest wave in comparison shopping, and the website MetaBid has made it a reality, giving people the chance to evaluate offers from doctors across the country and then travel to get the care of their choice. Here to discuss how it all works is MetaBid's president, Ralph Weber. Ralph, what's the experience? I go online, what happens?
Well, you go online and you make a request. Now, it depends if you work for an employer that uses MediBid to source care or if you're just an individual. So you make a request and you can put in your parameters, a few health questions, your height, your weight, any medication allergies. You can put in how far you're willing to travel, if at all. And then you request a bid. You can review all the doctor's profiles, so you see where they went to medical school, what their training was, what their experience is, how many of these procedures they do every year. So you really get to see a lot about the quality of the doctor, as you make the request.
Wow.
Which, with traditional insurance, I mean, all you know is in-network or out-of-network.
Yeah, you really don't know that much. I mean, although you are able to ask people in your community generally, especially if your community is smaller, then everybody sort of knows everybody. I have a lot of questions about all that. Okay, so if I'm an individual, do I have to join and pay a fee in order to be able to go and look if my employer is not a member?
Yeah, if your employer's not a member, you can pay $25 just to make one request or join for $4.95 per month. And then $4.95 per month is a one-year commitment. And then you can go on anytime you like and make requests.
So, the biggest question I'm sure that everyone out in the audience has is what kind of doctors do you have on the network? I mean, does it include everyone? Is it just a small group? I mean, what percentage would you say of the doctors in America are available on your website?
Well, not a huge percentage. We look for doctors that are not the mainstream big box type of providers. Doctors prefer getting cash at the time of care. The traditional insurance model where they will charge one price, that's called the charge master, and then the carrier reprices it to the allowable, and then they're paid a portion of that. it sometimes takes 120 days or so for them to get their money. So the doctors like getting paid at the time that the care, and also they get to set their own prices.
Yeah.
With traditional insurance, they're told what they're going to be paid, and that's it.
No, that's interesting. They get to set their own price and see what the market will bear. A lot of our viewers tweeted in and said, you know, it's very normal for people to travel to Sloan Kettering or to travel to MD Anderson for cancer treatment.
Right.
So they're familiar with the idea of traveling for big names. Do you have big names like that on your site?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we do. Baylor in Houston, MD Anderson is participating on a very small level.
Yeah.
We have talked to Curlin Job in Los Angeles. They kind of were looking at it. They haven't made a final evaluation. Yeah. So absolutely, we do have, we have overseas facilities too, like Bumrungrad in Bangkok.
Well, let me ask.
Well, we happen to have Ralph Weber with us right here. Ralph, I just had you come up and testify. Ralph's the author of the book, Rigged: How Insurance Ruined Healthcare. Ralph, give us a background of you and your company and what went on here today.
Well, Mike, I'm a healthcare specialist. I've been doing that for 27 years, studying how costs can be reduced for employers. I have employer groups from 25 employees all the way up to 80,000 employees. A lot of employers, most employers, are paying too much for healthcare. In the U.S., we spend more per capita than any other country on the planet, and our outcomes are not as good as most other countries. Why is that? Because there's a lot of waste. When we studied the state of Tennessee expenditures for 2018, we found that if the state did one simple thing, and that was go to out-of-network providers instead of in-network providers, that alone would save $96 million a year.
Explain that again, just so people that may not grasp
okay,
that.
so the in-network providers in 2018 were paid 6% more than the out-of-network providers were paid.
Now, why is that?
Well, in my opinion, it's because whoever the negotiator is working for the insurance company isn't doing a great job. If he is negotiating a higher cost for network providers, why even have a network? Why spend $96 million more just to have a network? There's no need to have a network.
Yes.
If the state just simply said, we're not going to have one deductible for a network, one for out of network, we're going to have the same deductible, but you're not going to have a network, they would save $96 million a year.
Wow. That's hard to believe that exists, though.
Oh, exactly.
And our total health care plan, it's a good plan, but it's an expensive plan, $1.6 billion, correct?
$1.6 billion is what was spent in 2018. And we drilled down on a few procedures. CT scan, the average cost was $635. The high was $19,200.
Why is that?
Because nobody is watching the expenses.
That's hard to believe, though. People that are watching this aren't going to believe this exists in government.
No, well, the government is not being accountable to the taxpayers.
Wow.
Because they're
why would that happen? That seems crazy.
Special interests. There's a lot of money. A lot of money means a lot of lobbyists. They're trying to cover it up. When Chairman Daniel asked for some transparency, they filed a lawsuit against him to prevent having to reveal it. Attorney General did an audit, and that hasn't been released, the results of the audit. So there's a lot of money. There's a lot.
What do you think is going to come out of the audit, though, since the audit that we spoke about in committee just now, the AG's sitting on the audit, hadn't released the findings. What do you expect?
I expect it'll find a lot of excess spending.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and those outliers with those CT scans or colonoscopy or other procedures, when you have those far gapping outliers, have you seen that in other?
Yeah,
plans?
it's becoming the norm. It's very normal to see 1,000% variation. Now, for CT scan for the state of Tennessee, from the average to the high was 3,100%. In colonoscopies, it was 1,600%. The average was $1,212. The high was $17,341.
Wow.
And the more you pay, the lower the quality.
And your book, Rigged: How Insurance Ruined Healthcare. What led you to write this book?
That was the third book that I wrote, Mike. And what led me to write it was what I have been discovering about the cost of healthcare in the United States and how we're paying too much, how much waste there is, how much excessive spending there is. and how employers can solve that problem by changing to a plan that doesn't, pay 3,000% more than to one provider than another.
Is there another product or service in the world or in this country that has that lacks transparency and lacks free market principles than healthcare?
Well, PBM's drug.
PBMs, yes.
Yeah, that's healthcare related though. Most other things, the price before you buy it.
Yes.
If you go into a restaurant, you look at the menu, you know the price. If you go to a restaurant where there's no prices, you probably can't afford it.
Yes.
And I think what happened, I made a video about this once a long time ago. I think that two insurance executives were having lunch together in a restaurant that didn't have the prices, and they looked at the menu, and one of them says, "Hey, there's no prices on the menu." And the other one said, "Yeah, that's because we probably can't afford it." And then the other one probably said, "Hey, that's a great idea. Let's obscure prices."
Wow. We had a great meeting with the speaker.
Yes.
And we talked about PBMs. That's something he's passionate about. Folks who don't know what PBMs are, it's pharmacy benefit managers.
Right.
Give us a quick summary of PBMs for folks that may not know what PBMs are.
So a PBM, and there are many, each of the insurance companies owns its own PBM, the big five insurance companies, and there are a lot of private PBMs as well. Each PBM will look at every medicine approved by the FDA, and they will group them into different formularies. There's a generic formulary. There's a preferred name brand that are supposed to be more cost effective than the non-preferred name brand. Then there's specialty meds. Some of the specialty meds can be thousands of dollars a month, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. Some prescriptions cost as much as $2 million a year. So the PBM will put it into different categories. Unfortunately, some of the PBMs get such large rebates from the drug manufacturers just to promote their product.
Wow.
So they move it into a formulary sometimes just because of that.
Yes. What can folks that are watching this video do that care about healthcare? I testified before a committee about my sister Vicky that's in a nursing home. Sadly, she lost everything, and she was a high performing insurance agent back in the day, and then she was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and then sadly had a bad fall 4 years ago, and literally lost everything. And I understand someone's got to pay for the nursing home. She needs full-time care, but what else can folks do who care about this issue?
Well, they can switch away from mainstream insurance providers that inflate the cost. Now, there are cases when the big insurance companies make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that happened with the Affordable Care Act is it guaranteed that small companies could get insurance no matter what the health was of their employees.
Yeah.
So if you have really unhealthy employees, the small group fully insured health plan might be a good bargain for you.
Yes.
But if you have healthy employees, average employees, then you're probably spending too much on those plans.
Yes.
So you need to get, as an employer, and we save one employer, we reduce their healthcare spending from $6 million a year to $4 million a year. 1/3 of their cost we saved.
Wow.
Just by moving them away from one of the big insurance companies.
Yeah.
And having a plan that cuts off those peaks, those 3,000% peaks. Once you cut those off and say, hey, whatever the average is, we're going to allow the plan to pay that plus a certain tolerance, even 50%, the average plus 50%. And if you cut the line right there and don't pay for anything extra,
yes.
that will save you a lot of money right
well,
there.
Your book, Rigged, last year, we gave this out to every lawmaker up here in the state of Tennessee. Hopefully they read it. I think the speaker gets this. He cares about the PBM. We had a great meeting with him earlier today, and I guess it gets frustrating, but they had 9 requests for TASRA studies. They only took up 2. Ours didn't make it, but I want to get this message out to folks. So you think, how much money do you think that the taxpayers could potentially save with this piece of legislation and some of the stuff that Mark Daniels has also been working on?
Well, we've proven that they can save $96 million a year minimum.
$96 million.
Personally, I think it's closer to $350 to $400 million a year that can be saved.
That just sounds that sounds so far fetched, but it's really happening.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's happening out there all the time.
Yes.
This one company I was telling you about, They have 500 employees in 70 countries. They're missionaries.
Yeah.
And I reduced their costs from 6 million a year to 4 million a year. That's
Wow.
1/3.
Yes.
So reduce 1.6 billion by a third. There you have your
Wow.
numbers. That's,
Exactly.
That's 500,000 right there.
Where can they find your book also?
I have the Kindle version on Amazon. I don't have enough hard copies left, so I pulled it from Amazon a short while ago. But
Okay.
if you reach out to me, I still have probably about
And what's your website?
medibid.com, MEDIBID,
Yes.
medibid.com.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Ralph, for flying up from Houston and testifying for a committee. And hopefully some representatives took notice of this, and hopefully this AG's report has
Well,
some
saving
significant
Tennessee
findings.
taxpayers money is important, then it needs to be studied.
Well, you would think
Absolutely.
so, but apparently some people don't believe that. Goes back to what you said, special interest.
Yes.
You know, the pharmaceutical industry, I had read a study the other day. It was something like, I forgot how much money they donated per congressman.
Mhm.
Have you heard how much it was?
I don't know that number,
It
but
was-
it wouldn't
it was-
surprise me.
Like,
Doesn't surprise
well,
me
it
at all.
was a couple $100,000
Mhm.
when you averaged it out.
Yeah.
But anyways, appreciate your time, and thank you for what you do for advocating for just common folks, man, trying to save some money in businesses that are leading cause of bankruptcy is healthcare. And America, for the research I've done, we spend more on healthcare than any country on the face of the earth.
Yep.
You know, we get it right on some areas, but we're losing on healthcare. Thank you, Ralph.
Thanks.